and we'll be covering a lot of that here in a bit. But 85% of marketers plan to significantly increase their AI usage in 2026. I actually just recently saw a statistic that said almost 80% of marketers are already using AI. So if you're not using AI in your business for marketing purposes or efficiency purposes, you are kind of missing the boat at the moment, and will continue to kind of fall behind as we go forward into 2026. All right. So, prediction number one, it's hyper personalization. This has been kind of on the forefront now for a while. Really, we've been kind of looking for uh, ways of doing so in a scalable way. This has been brought to the forefront and made easier now because of AI. So, brands are going to be utilizing this as much as possible. This is also going to be available now, probably to smaller businesses. Even from the ad level, we have things like Google advertising, Facebook advertising. They're all leveraging this personalization on the AI side. Still needs some things worked out, but it is on the right direction. And I think in 2026, we're going to see a lot more of this. Same with the social side. So on social media, I expect us to see an increase there as well. And we're expecting this to be about a 20% increase in conversion rates. I mean, that's what we're seeing currently is that AI powered personalization does allow us to provide a better experience for customers as well as providing more information that's relevant. And it ultimately leads to higher conversions. So if you are not leveraging AI in some way to either create content or to drive some of the strategy behind the scenes, to ultimately provide hyper personalization for each of your different stakeholders and audiences, you really are going to be kind of missing the boat here coming in 2026. So, how can we prepare for this? How can you kind of take advantage of really the 2026 change of hyper personalization? Really comes down to CRMs, CRM systems like HubSpot or Monday, or even like Salesforce. I mean, they're really going to be coming to the forefront here, allowing us to gather more data. The CRMs are going to be using um, and allowing companies to hyper focus on certain audiences, certain interests, and certain behaviors that we want to see and resonate with our customers. So I think if you're not using your CRM or not using to the fullest extent, start dabbling in there, seeing what is available, try and use it as much as possible because that CRM is going to be needed and leveraged in 2026 as we continue to personalize all the messaging and advertising to each individual stakeholder. And as you can see here, I mean, every dollar you spend on a CRM generally generates about $8.71, which is a fantastic investment for almost any business. 8 to 1 return on investment is always a strong decision. So investing some time, effort, and energy into making sure that CRM is being used to the best of ability will only increase that ROI for you. So make sure, especially this year coming up, that you are having a plan to ultimately leverage that CRM that you're using currently. All right. Prediction number two, cutting through the AI clutter. 2025 has been littered with generative AI. We're estimating that about 10% of all content is actually being generated by AI at this point, which means that we're getting flooded with the market. Um, we're seeing masses amount of content be created, usually pretty low volume, or not low volume, but low quality. The content is just mediocre at best, but ultimately we're seeing a lot of it. So you're gonna have to be cutting through the content clutter that is out there in the best way possible. I mean, really, you need to get the relevant messages to people as much as possible. So, I mean, the stat here we have for this one is 81% of consumers we ignore irrelevant marketing messages. So volume is not going to be the key here. We are really going to be looking for the content that is valuable and something useful. So focus on creating content that is something like the definitive guides, white papers, or case studies, that high effort content that provides true expertise and true information to your potential clients or customers. That's going to be key, and especially in general, but especially coming into this AI kind of overload of content, as you're going to need a way to cut through that. And doing so will be by creating a high effort content, because AI can't easily do that, or it can't come up with those ideas as easily. It's just going to kind of do the same that everyone else is already doing. So making sure that you are providing, some high quality content, and ideally it should be personalized. So creating those call to actions that are personal to either the industry they're in or the person that you're talking to. This is really where AI is going to kind of help, because you can make these things a little more scalable, for businesses of all size. And these personalized call to actions end up converting at a much higher rate than just like that default call to action. So if you have something that's like, just sign up today, it's not going to do great. But if it's something that's personalized to that person, talks to them and their needs and their wants, it's going to have a much higher conversion rate as well. Also, so behavior driven emails, or content that is provided to people is actually very strong. And I think it's going to be another kind of point to this, in 2026. So having those triggers and workflows that ultimately send content that is relevant and timely to a certain action on your website or a certain action in the buying cycle, will ultimately increase your conversion rate. And as you can see here in this stat, I mean, 41% of the email orders that are created are from that small percentage, that 2% of the behavior driven email triggers. So, incorporate that in your CRM and your thought process then in strategy into going into 2026. The next one, prediction number 3. This is a big one. So, zero click search, is coming for us all. It is in the SEO world. We're definitely seeing a loss in traffic just due to zero click search. For those that aren't aware of what that is your AI overviews. That is people searching questions on such things as ChatGPT, or Gemini. And they're getting their answers there without actually clicking through to a website to get the answer. So the content is being pulled from these different websites, and creating this response for somebody in an AI generated way. But the website itself is not getting the clicks, unless someone looks through those sources and then clicks ultimately to that website. We are seeing on average about 24% drop in organic traffic as a whole. That's kind of like a wide gamut of people. Some people are seeing 45%, some people are seeing none. But we are seeing definitely kind of a trickle down effect that is happening because of the zero click search. Ultimately, I think this is the route we're still going to be going. 2026 is going to become even more and more prevalent, especially as, like the millennial ages, and even like Gen Xers and such are starting to see and use AI at a much higher rate, especially even just for those daily things of, asking for like grocery questions or asking for, basic health things. They may be like, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I like, what is this pain? Instead of going to the internet and finding the search results, and ultimately providing some type of click to a website. They're now just providing a search query in AI, of some sort, and then getting the results in the summarized version. Or if they are using Google at this point, you're also still seeing those AI overviews. So if your strategy is not considering how AI overviews are going to affect your business, it's definitely going to be kind of a downfall, for the SEO strategy side of things for you. So how do we combat this? Education first, strategies. As I mentioned, ChatGPT is being used even more and more, in all those AI platforms. And ChatGPT itself is processing 2.5 billion prompts daily. That is a lot of prompts that are coming through, but ultimately, we're seeing more and more volume as this continues to become a much bigger part of everybody's daily use case. Along the same lines, though, these 2.5 billion prompts that we're seeing every day, we're ultimately still seeing that people that are clicking through are actually a higher converting traffic. So those people that are looking up something, have a question, and ultimately want to find out the true answer to it, they are really kind of pulling in even further. They're doing more research on that website. They're finding out their services, maybe, and then they're ultimately converting in some way, shape, or form. So this organic search that is AI overview focused is actually being a positive in the sense that once you do get a click, it is a higher conversion, even though already organic traffic is generally the highest converting as well. So that means it's even better than it was before as far as the click to conversion rate. Also, as you can see in the stat here, the brands cited in AI overviews, they do get a 35% more organic clicks than those not cited. So it's just another way that brands can be incorporated in that kind of that top level, that top few really first page results. So you could be number one in the first page results, and then also the AI overview just kind of takes up more spots for your content and your website, which ultimately, for SEO purposes, is going to be fantastic and also going to drive more and more traffic to your website. More brand awareness as well. And I think along those lines too, that's kind of really what we're shifting towards. Even the education first strategy, as we are seeing something that is going to be educational, of course, but the educational content and concepts are generally speaking going to be kind of that middle of funnel, where we're not necessarily like converting yet, but we're educating people, providing valuable content that builds trust, builds engagement, and ultimately helps the consumer go to the next step where they may ultimately convert, or at least have that be your company in the consideration list. So I think that's really where AI overviews are kind of being used, is we're answering questions, helping build trust, and really just kind of getting your name out there. I'm not necessarily going to be a straight conversion path. So if you are looking kind of for this strategy around your SEO and AI overviews, really the content needs to be about answering questions, being helpful, and not necessarily about converting right away. Let them do that more naturally. Still, of course, have your landing pages and everything created around that, but let the content and the helpfulness speak the words and help the customer or consumer or client, whatever you may have, ultimately make that decision instead of you trying to just kind of force that on them. All right. So preparation and action plan. How do we kind of go through and ultimately benefit from these changes? So the first one is really going to be data mastery, ensuring that your data that you have and you're using is being used effectively, but also securely. So don't waste time just kind of blindly guessing for targeting and advertising. If you're just kind of seeing what works, that's okay to some degree, but ultimately you want to be making sure that your messaging is being targeted, and also personalized to those individuals as well. So make sure that your data is being used and leveraged in some way, shape, or form that ultimately helps. CRMs, once again, are going to be the real kind of use case here. Using CRMs of some sort can lead to conversion rates increasing by up to 300% when you're utilizing them well. So, that's a fantastic. So, if you have a 1% conversion rate, which is not great depending on the industry, but it could be decent depending on what you're selling. 3xing that is essentially 3xing your sales. So you're going from a 1% to 3% conversion rate. Ultimately that's going to be saving you a ton of money. Also leveraging a much wider audience, and ultimately providing a better, more sustainable sales cycle for you that ultimately provides more value. Sales productivity is also a big one. So if you are somebody that has a company that sells maybe a service of some sort, the ability for you to be productive and ultimately really understand more of the customer, what the sales cycle looks like, that's really going to be where a CRM kind of helps. It'll provide your sales team with the ability to personalize messages and understand them better. A really great example of this is I was actually uh, looking for a service of my own that I was trying to get done at our house. I called the place for it. They ultimately talked me through the process and kind of what happened. They asked questions, kind of that discovery type of call. Asked like why we're looking for this service, and then a week later, once I said I need to go kind of do some research, they called back, reference pretty much the entire conversation before. They referenced, why I was buying it, like who I was buying it with, what we're doing with it, what was the purpose. So that ability to them for them to prioritize and personalize what was important to me, ultimately would lead then to that sale. That's going to be what made it feel valuable to me. I made it feel like they care. I'm sure once again, I'm sure it's all in the CRM. They're all just kind of notating in there, this is why John did this. This is why John wanted X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, those type of things really add up and make it a more personal experience for me. So make sure you're kind of incorporating those type of changes and um, those type of prioritization of data usage with your CRM, especially coming up in your, like I said, in 2026, we're going to see a big change in that personalization area. All right, so pillar number two. So creating that educational content, once again, it's going to be the frame that is going to allow your company to be an expert and be citable on these AI overviews. So make sure that your content is really kind of focused in on the person, not necessarily focused on what you want them to. Kind of the worst things I've always see is we always see that the person is providing some type of content that's like free quote checker or free price checker, like something like that, where yes, that is a valuable, but it's really focused on them generating a lead and not helping the other person. So like not having this something that is really kind of focused on the customer side, but really that's more focused on the company. The company is trying to obviously get some type of lead information on you, and may or may not be valuable for the consumer. So providing something that is very consumer centric, very speaking to their needs and their wants, that internal problems that they are experiencing, is ultimately going to be what is going to resonate with them and lead to those long-term conversions and interactions with a customer. So when you are creating this content, make sure that you're creating content that is both citable, so the AI can actually cite your content, but it also needs to be coming from an expert voice, an expert tone, and lastly, and most importantly, has to actually be helpful. Don't create content that your CEO thinks is good, or that your marketing team thinks is good. No, create content that your customers and clients will like, they can actually use, whether or not that is kind of giving away a little bit of your secret sauce, whatever makes you special. You really still should be giving away something. If they don't find value in it, it's ultimately going to become white noise. And especially with this overflow of AI content, just going to be mixed in with that, and no one will ever find your content, or nor will it be cited on an AI overview or some other search as well. All right. So pillar number three is this human connection. So really, I think once again in 2026, I mean, the human part of everything is actually going to be coming more to the forefront. Yes, AI is going to be big, AI is going to be everywhere, but this is going to allow us to provide that better experience to everybody of all sorts. It's also going to lean into UGC, which is user generated content. So people are going to be looking to trust humans more than they would be trusting maybe a content piece online or advertisements. We want to see, what are other people saying? If you look up top searches online, many times you'll see that it'll be whatever search you're looking for and then followed by Reddit. This is because people want those honest opinions. Yes, a company can be honest. Yes, another person that is being paid as an influencer can be honest about whether or not a product's good or bad, but they want to see people that are kind of genuinely using the product. They want to see the conversation around it. And I think that is going to be becoming a even bigger forefront in 2026. This also, providing that user generated content and things that are more human centric, providing content that is helpful and honest and open. I mean, you can even lean into a little bit, at least, into the flaws of things. You mean you're not going to be perfect. You're not a perfect business. You're not a perfect human. So not leaning away from that and trying to be this completely glossed over thing, be honest and open, is really going to lead to this increased brand loyalty and making people feel more engaged. Same with the user generated content. That's like the bread and butter. If someone says something good, even if it's not like perfectly what you want the marketing team to say, it's going to go a lot further than it would be if you would just, have just your corporate side saying, this is what we do, this is what we offer. So provide user generated content as much as possible and also engage with your clients, engage with your customers on social media. Go out there and comment on them. If they comment on your website or your page or your Facebook page, make sure you're engaging, especially on reviews and review sites. If somebody says something, whether it's positive or negative, go out there and engage. Just interact with people. It'll ultimately create trust. It brings more loyalty to your brand, especially if you are out there trying to actively resolve maybe a bad experience. I mean, it happens to every brand, it happens to every company. Once again, we're all human, we're all imperfect. So there's nothing wrong with having, a bad day or a bad situation. So go out there, fix it, make it the best you possibly can. It'll go a long way with those that actually love and really enjoy your brand. It'll give them increased brand loyalty and ultimately lead to your success long term. All right, so that wraps up my 2026 strategy kind of overview of predictions for the marketing world in 2026. Um, I'd love to know your thoughts on what do you think you're going to see more of in 2026 or what your strategy is going forward. I'd love to schedule a strategy session if you're not really sure where to go or, what is the next step for your company or how can you actually implement some of these things. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to call or to have a chat with you and understand, what your strategy should be and how can you implement some of these changes like the CRMs. How can you implement better content strategy and ultimately build this engaging and trustful user base that ultimately every company will need. So thanks again for hopping on here. I'm enjoying the video. I hope you learned and kind of got a gauge as to what we can really expect more of in 2026. If you have any questions, please let me know in chat or leave comments on the video. And please, once again, like, follow, share.